All right, so let's go into Kapitel 5.5, the word order. This is actually one of my favorite things, the word order in German. It's very fun. But first, let's go through the exercises from the last unit. So we are going to look at these verbs, especially these irregular simple past verbs. So, ich ging am Mittwoch zu Fuß zum Supermarkt, which is, I went on Wednesday to the supermarket on foot. Or it's also I walked. Gehen means to go or to walk. It means to go, but it also implies walking, as opposed to like driving or something else. Because if you drove or you rode on the subway or something, you would say fahren. Yeah. Ging is from the infinitive gehen. Yeah. So ich ging am Mittwoch. It does say zu Fuß, like to make it super explicit, on foot. But if it didn't have zu Fuß, if it just said ich ging zum Supermarkt, it would imply walking, even if it didn't say it. Okay, so ging is from gehen. It's an irregular simple past. Okay. Wir kauften letzte Woche ein neues Auto. We bought. Wir kauften. So see, it's regular. It's got that te ending that you recognize on the simple past, and then it's also got the N because it's wir. Wir kauften. We bought a new car last week. Kauften comes from kaufen. So that one's regular, not too tricky. And then we have Peter schrieb seiner Freundin eine romantische SMS. So schrieb is the verb here, and it has a really interesting vowel change. It means Peter wrote his girlfriend a romantic text message. And then schrieb comes from schreiben. So just like heißen hieß, it's schreiben schrieb. So it's really easy to not notice the way that these the diphthong is changed, basically. So you have these two vowels pronounced together, and then they switch so that they're pronounced very differently from each other. So Peter wrote, Peter schrieb. So then we have the sentences from Schneewittchen, from Snow White, that we wanted to find the verbs and the infinitives and then make a translation. So I have all the verbs marked here first, and then we'll go into a translation. So, und wie sie so nähte, and as she was sewing, comes from nähen. Und nach dem Schnee aufblickte, nähte comes from nähen, to sew. Und nach dem Schnee aufblickte, so see this T ending, that will be your signal that it's actually it's a simple past. So it comes from aufblicken, meaning to look up. Blicken, to look. So it's regular, so it's not too tricky. Yeah. Stach sie sich mit der Nadel in den Finger. Stach is irregular, and it comes from stechen, which means to stab, or it's also what bees do to you. I guess sting. Yeah. But normally, what she's doing with the needle here, so she pricks herself in the finger with the needle. It also means stab, right? Stach sie sich mit der Nadel in den Finger, and then es fielen 3 Tropfen Blut in den Schnee. So 3 drops of blood fell into the snow. Fielen was in the other sentence we did earlier as well. Fielen comes from fallen. So before it was the snowflakes that were falling, and now we have 3 drops of blood that are falling. Und weil das Rote in dem Weißen so schön aussah. So this is pretty complicated. Weil means because, and we're going to do more with that later. But for now, we got to find that verb. It's actually at the end of the clause, which will be explained later, pretty soon actually. But aussah comes from aussehen, and that's to look a certain way. So, so dachte sie. So dachte, you should be able to recognize from the ones we just learned. She thought. Dachte comes from denken. So dachte sie, hätte ich doch ein Kind so weiß wie Schnee. This is actually a subjunctive form we're going to do at the end of the term, so don't worry about that. It just means, if only I had. It's a sort of a hypothetical. If only I had a child as white as snow, so rot wie Blut und so schwarz wie dieser Rahmen. If only I had a child as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as this window frame. Und bald darauf bekam sie ein Töchterlein. So Bekam you can recognize from kommen, and so it's from bekommen, which means to receive. So she received a child, and that's how you say someone has a child. And in German, they receive a child. So, and soon afterwards, she had a little daughter. So weiß wie der Schnee, so rot wie das Blut und so schwarz wie Ebenholz, und darum hieß es Schneewittchen. She had a little daughter, as white as the snow, as red as blood, and as black as ebony. And that's why the daughter, and S here is referring to Töchterlein, which is neuter. We had this not too long ago when we were talking about pronouns, that even this is grammatically neuter. So even though it refers to the daughter, it's still going to be replaced with the neuter pronoun S. Schneewittchen. Okay, he's also from heißen. He's heißen. So then I have the translation here if you want to go back over it, but basically everything said just now. I actually put it, therefore it was called Snow White, and so that's me like acknowledging this S, he's S, but and therefore the little daughter, if she was called, she would actually be better here, yeah. So, yeah. Then we have some more little sentences with some simple past verbs. So, es war einmal ein hübsches Mädchen, dessen Mutter krank wurde und starb. So, once upon a time, there was a handsome or beautiful girl, hübsches Mädchen, a beautiful girl, whose mother became sick and died. So, wurde, became, and then starb, died. Nach einem Jahr nahm der Mann eine neue Frau. So, nahm comes from nehmen, to take. So, after a year, the husband took a new wife. Diese Frau brachte 2 Töchter mit ins Haus. Oh, I'm missing an R there. 2 Töchter with an R. This woman brought 2 daughters with her into the house. Diese Schwestern waren schön von Gesicht, aber böse von Herzen. These sisters were beautiful of face, but evil of heart. Aschenputtel hatte kein Bett mehr, so that's just Cinderella no longer had a bed. She had no bed anymore. No longer had a bed. Sie schlief neben dem Herd in der Asche. So schlief comes from schlafen, to sleep. So she slept next to the bed, or next to the stove, which is Herd. Herd is close to hearth, which is it's an old-timey word for stove, right? In the ashes. Sie war immer schmutzig und hieß deshalb Aschenputtel. So she was always dirty, and that's why she was named Aschenputtel. So war and hieß irregular. Als der Vater zurückkam, brachte er Kleider und Edelsteine für die Stiefschwestern. When the father returned, or when the father came back, he brought dresses and jewels for the stepsisters. Brachte er, he brought. Aschenputtel bekam ein Kleid von ihrer verstorbenen Mutter und ging auf das Fest des Königs. So, bekam comes from bekommen, which means to receive. Cinderella received a dress from her deceased mother and went to the king's festival. Ihre Schwestern erkannten Aschenputtel nicht auf dem Fest. Erkannten comes from kennen, and so you have kennen, or erkannten comes from erkennen. So you have kennen, kannte, and then erkennen, erkannte. So whenever you have that prefix, there's lots of different prefixes that can exist, but you that last part will tell you what sort of conjugations you need. So the sisters did not recognize Cinderella at the festival. So kennen means to know or be familiar with, and then erkennen means to recognize. So slightly different meaning, but then so the prefix changes the meaning, but it doesn't change the way that it's conjugated. So did not recognize. Yeah, and then I have marked all of the infinitives here. War comes from sein, wurde comes from werden, starb comes from sterben, nahm comes from nehmen, brachte, bringen, sein goes to waren, haben, schlafen goes to schlief, War comes from sein. Hieß comes from heißen. Kam comes from kommen, comes back. The word zurück means back, so it's together. We'll go into that more later, but it just means come back. Brachte comes from bringen. Bekam comes from bekommen. Gehen, and then erkannten comes from erkennen. Okay, now word order. The position of the verb is the main rule, the most important rule about word order is that the conjugated verb is in the second position. So I always tell my students to get this tattooed on themselves. Verb in the second position, verb in the second position. Or you can have it be your mantra during yoga class. Verb in the second position. Whatever you need to do to remember verb in the second position. And then, the main verb agrees in number with its subject, obviously. Okay, so in English, we used to do this sometimes, and sometimes we still do, but it starts to sound a little old-timey. But if you saw episode 9 of Star Wars, you heard Emperor Palpatine say, "Long have I waited for my grandchild to come home." So he does an adverb first. Long is an adverb for a long time. And then he does the verb, have. And then he does the subject, I. And then it's past tense, so he does another verb. He does a past participle. But this is the main verb, have. It's a conjugated verb. So what happens is that he sounds elevated, or it sounds poetic, is what is happening here. Imagine if you said, how would you make this sound less poetic? You would say, I've waited for a long time, or something, right? But when you say, long have I waited, well, that sounds pretty fancy. So we still do it sometimes in English, but it doesn't sound totally normal, right? Verb in the second position here. So let's try some of these. Ich spiele heute Fußball, that's normal word order. Subject, verb, and then adverb, direct object, whatever else you're going to do. But you can put your adverb at the front. Heute spiele ich Fußball, which the literal translation would be today play I soccer, which is not right in English, not nowadays anyway. So you would still translate it as I play soccer today. In English, the today sounds better at the end as well. But in German, the adverbs usually come before the direct object. Fußball spiele ich heute, and you can also put the direct object first if you want to emphasize it. So soccer play I today. That would be if you were correcting someone and they said, are you playing tennis today? You're playing tennis today, right? And you'd say, no, soccer. Soccer is what I'm playing today. Fußball spiele ich heute. So you can put any number of things here in the first position, the subject, adverb, direct object, but no matter what's in the first position, you got to have the verb in the second position. And then if you haven't done the subject already, that has to come next. And then whatever else has to happen in whatever order it would normally come in. So then the exception to the verb in the second position rule is that yes or no questions have the verb in the first position. So spiele ich heute Fußball is am I playing soccer today, or do I play soccer today? And so in English we actually put that verb in the first position in a yes/no question as well, except for we put in the do or does, unless you want to sound more Shakespearean. And I have an example later of that one, I think. But so play I soccer today. It's really am I playing soccer today? Do I play soccer today? But still the verb is in the front, the first position for yes or no question. Versus, let's look at an informational question. An informational question is a question that asks for information. It has a question word like was, wer, wann, was, wo, warum, all those question words that start with W. Those will have the verb in the second position because it's the first position is the question word. So question word, then the verb, second position, and then the subject, and then everything else. So question words, informational questions also have verbs in the second position. So let's look at some yes/no questions to review what these look like. Verb in the first position for yes/no questions. Ist das ein Haus? And in this case, it is exactly word for word like English. Is that a house? Ist das ein Haus? So it's very clear we got the verb in the first position in English as well. Verb in the first position for yes/no questions. Scheint die Sonne heute? In that case, if you do the verb, now we sound like Shakespeare, shines the sun today. We would say, does the sun shine today? Kommst du zur Party? Come you to the party, which is actually, are you coming to the party? Do you come to the party? Hast du das Buch? Do you have the book? Have you the book? Yeah. But these sound archaic in English, but these sound totally normal in German. This is totally the standard way to do it still today in German. But we can compare. I found some examples from Shakespeare. So in Macbeth, Lennox says, "Goes the king hence today?" And today we would say, "Does the king go hence to there today?" So that is just an example. So yes or no questions, first position verb, but everything else, second position verb. So let's try some more. Frau Lessing geht heute Abend ins Theater. Frau Lessing is the subject, geht is the verb, and then we've got an adverb and we've got a prepositional phrase. But imagine if we wanted to emphasize the heute Abend part, like tonight. Tonight, Frau Lessing is going to the theater. So then you would say, heute Abend geht Frau Lessing ins Theater. Verb is still in the second position. And then if you've got your, you put something else in the front, then the verb. If you haven't done the subject yet, you can't put it off any longer. It's got to come right after the verb. Ins Theater geht Frau Lessing heute Abend. To the theater, Frau Lessing is going tonight. That's if you really want to emphasize that place as opposed to another place. So the first position can be anything. Second position has to be the verb. Yes or no question would be, for example, geht Frau Lessing heute Abend ins Theater? Is Frau Lessing going to the theater tonight? Goes she tonight to the theater? And we could look at an informational question like, wohin geht Frau Lessing heute Abend? Where to goes Frau Lessing tonight? Where to is she going? So question word first position, and then the verb second position. Let's look at, wir trinken morgens Kaffee. Imagine you want to, so this is, we drink in the mornings coffee. We drink coffee in the mornings. We want to emphasize in the mornings we drink coffee. So in English, it would be in the mornings we drink coffee. But in German, it would be in the mornings drink we coffee. So morgens trinken wir Kaffee, second position. What about if we wanted to really emphasize the coffee as opposed to something else? You would say, Kaffee trinken wir morgens. Coffee is what we drink in the mornings. Coffee drink we in the mornings. So first position can be anything. Second position, verb. Yes, no question might be, trinken wir morgens Kaffee? Do we drink coffee in the mornings? Informational question might be, was trinken wir morgens? What do we drink in the mornings? And then question word, second position verb. Let's try, ich gehe jetzt nach Hause. What if we wanted to say, now I'm going home? You would say, jetzt gehe ich nach Hause. So we've got an adverb, verb, second position, subject. And then if you want to say home as opposed to somewhere else, nach Hause gehe ich jetzt. Home is where I'm going now. And then a yes/no question might be, gehe ich jetzt nach Hause? Am I going home now? Or go I home now? So then we have an informational question might be, wohin gehe ich jetzt? Where to do I go now? Or any number of things you could be asking for the information for. For example, wann gehe ich nach Hause? When do I go home? And then the answer would be jetzt now. Yeah. So, meine Schwester kommt heute Abend ins Kino. My sister is coming to the movie theater tonight. So we have heute Abend. We want to emphasize that. Tonight, my sister's coming to the movie theater. So we have heute Abend kommt, verb in second position, and then the subject, meine Schwester. What about if you wanted to emphasize ins Kino? You can take it from here, put it to the front, and then verb in the second position. Ins Kino kommt meine Schwester heute Abend. What about a yes or no question? We might say, kommt meine Schwester heute Abend ins Kino? Is my sister coming to the movie theater tonight? What about for an informational question? Wer kommt heute Abend ins Kino? who comes tonight to the movie theater? Or maybe, wann kommt meine Schwester ins Kino? When does my sister come to the movie theater? And that would be heute Abend. Okay, Greta trinkt morgens Tee. Or maybe, morgens trinkt Greta Tee. Now we want to say, in the mornings, Greta drinks tea. Or maybe we want to say, Tee trinkt Greta morgens. Tea is what Greta drinks in the mornings. So, first position, any number of things. Second position, verb. We might say, trinkt Greta morgens Tee? Does Greta drink mornings tea? So does Greta drink tea in the mornings? Or maybe, was trinkt Greta morgens? What does Greta drink in the mornings? Or maybe, wann trinkt Greta Tee? When does Greta drink tea? Okay, so here is one that, I'm leading into one that's a little trickier. Let's do this one first. Christina besucht am Mittwoch eine Freundin. So Christina visits on Wednesday a friend. We could put the am Mittwoch. It's very common to have the time expression at the front. Germans do that a lot. So on Wednesday visits Christina a friend. Or maybe the yes or no question, does Christina visit a friend on Wednesday? Besucht Christina am Mittwoch eine Freundin? Or maybe, wann besucht Christina eine Freundin? When does Christina visit a friend? Or maybe, wer besucht eine Freundin am Mittwoch? Who is visiting a friend on Wednesday? Okay, so this is that one we just had. This is one that tends to confuse people. So imagine it'll be the same thing, but we said eine Freundin here. But now we're going to say the name of the friend. That friend is called Karin. So, Christina besucht am Mittwoch Karin. Seems simple enough. Christina, verb, time expression, direct object. So imagine we want to take that time expression, put it to the front. Am Mittwoch besucht Christina Karin. So we still have our, first position, second position, but what's happened since we have the subject is coming after the verb, and now we have the direct object right next to it, and if you don't recognize the names, or if they're not super familiar to you, it can look like one person's name because they're right next to each other, or it can just be confusing to have these two names next to each other to figure out who is the subject and who is the direct object, right? So just make sure to remember that if you got your verb in second position and the subject wasn't done already, it has to come right after the verb, and then your direct object. Okay, so richtig oder falsch. Let's try some and decide whether they're correct or wrong, correct or incorrect. Morgen geht sie zur Arbeit. Tomorrow goes she to work, right? That's correct. Richtig. Because our verb is in the second position. But imagine if we said, morgen sie geht zur Arbeit. That would be wrong, falsch, because first position, second position, third position, can't have the verb in the third position. Heute gehe ich schwimmen, first position, second position, yeah, that's right, second position. What about heute ich gehe schwimmen, same problem. We've got our time expression, then our subject, then our verb, third position. Wrong, falsch. What about 7 Uhr geht zur Schule. At 7 o'clock, it's 7 Uhr geht zur Schule. I think I corrected it in my speech because it's hard to say something wrong, right? So this is wrong, falsch. This is all the first position. 7 Uhr is a time expression, so technically it's 3 words, but it still counts as the first position because it's like any other adverb of time. So heute or 7 Uhr. So all of this is the first position. And then this is the subject and this is the verb. So what it needs to be is 7 Uhr geht zur Schule. At 7 o'clock goes he to school. Okay, so the book has this formula that can help you figure out what order things go in. So if this is helpful to you, if it seems like a way that you find intuitive to learn, go ahead and go through it. For me, I find it to be a little bit opaque, but we can go, it's basically, maybe it's because I never liked math. I've never been good at math. It looks too much like math to me. But maybe if you are more comfortable with math, this will be helpful. So X is just like the first, it tells you what this all means, right? X is the first position, whatever, you put whatever in the first position, right? And then verb, like verb 1, and then the subject, so pronouns functioning in the subject. Im Jahre 1935 kaufte sich Einstein in Princeton ein Einfamilienhaus. So you can go through and see all of these different mix and match elements, right? Not every sentence has all of these things, but if you have them, this is the order they go in. But I think that it's easier to just learn the word order for things as you go along, and then come back to this once you have more types of sentences under your belt. So we've had indirect objects and direct objects, but we haven't had like multiple verb constructions yet. So that will make more sense once we get to those. Yeah, not every lexical item occurs in every sentence, so you might not have everything. And then, yeah, adverbs and negation and particles not taken into consideration. And the general rule is time, manner, place. So we had one of those, actually. I can show you in one of the examples that we had for the homework. This is time, manner, place. Ich ging am Mittwoch zu Fuß zum Supermarkt. So the time is am Mittwoch, and then the manner, how would I do it, zu Fuß, on foot, and then the place is zum Supermarkt, to the place. So if you have all of these elements, it goes time, when did it happen, manner, in what way did it happen, and then place, to where or where did it happen. That's time, manner, place. Okay, so yeah, this is one of these things you can just come back to as you start to feel more comfortable with things. Yeah, so this is dependent word order, which we will get to soon, but I want to show you examples. It's chapter 18, so it'll be a while, but I feel that it's more helpful to come back to it after you've already seen more examples and led up to it a little more. So here's some translation hints for word order. Read the entire sentence. This is the most important thing when you're translating is no matter what the word order is in a sentence, you read the entire sentence before you start translating, because the verb might not be where you expect it to be and the subject might not be where you expect it to be. So read the whole sentence and then try to figure out what the verb is and what the subject is. And then when it begins with an adverb or adverbial phrase like a time expression, translate the adverb or phrase first, then the subject, and then the verb, right? So instead of saying, today go I, you say, today I go. Sounds better in English. And then when a direct object begins a German sentence, you may begin with the object and follow with a passive construction. So that was like, soccer I'm playing today, or whatever it is, right? It sounds, soccer is what I'm playing today. You can just sort of rephrase it. And then sometimes you have an indirect object in the first position. You'd be like, einem Mann gebe ich eine Orange. To a man, I give an orange, right? And then it just, to start with the indirect object sounds really weird in English. So just change the word order entirely and just make it straightforward. I give the man an orange. Note that in spite of the variable word order in German, in independent sentence, the conjugated verb always remains in position 2, verb in the second position. And then it doesn't alter the English translation. So don't worry about changing the word order in your translation. Just make the word order match whatever is required in English, right? So, Hausaufgaben, now we just have the end of chapter exercises for Kapitel 5. So go ahead and do these. And we've got some vocabulary for you to get familiar with, and then some reading, some exercises for practicing exercises, Übungssätze, practice sentences. And then we've got more of those, and then we've got some little texts. And if it is too much, just do as much as you can. Try to at least get through these sentences and then move on to these others if you have time. So then I'll see you at our next meeting at 2:45. Vielen Dank, auf Wiedersehen, tschüss, mach's gut.